Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of ValueSource, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. And without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to David Fine.
Hello, thank you, Melissa. My name is David Fine. I'm the CEO of ValueSource, and we partner with CoreValue and Mr. George Sandman, who's our other presenter today. And what today is about is talking to you about CoreValue software and how you can use it to assess a company and improve a company's operational performance and their value. You know, it's a fabulous tool if you have a consulting practice, but also if you are, you know, in the brokerage business or in the M&A business, and you're looking to find a way to understand how a company's operational strength is impacting its value or weaknesses, like what holes there are in a company, and more importantly, you know, what's the gap between what a company is worth today and what it could be worth if it was operationally working at a much better level. So with that, I'll turn it over to George, and the two of us are going to sort of tag team it today and walk you through CoreValue software, what it is, how you can use it, and George, take it away.
Perfect. Listen, thank you, Melissa. Thank you, David. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to give you an overview of the CoreValue system. And the CoreValue system is designed to solve a fundamental problem, which is to help you start or grow a consulting practice and to show you the best areas to move into, to do it in a way that maintains your credibility in the market. And when we've helped you create this new service or expand your existing service to give you the marketing and sales tools you need to go and find and win new clients. Right, so you'll be able to learn the best way to help clients, show them the ROI for hiring you, and be able to scale, maintaining with quality control. There are a couple of alternatives. Go ahead, David.
Let me just jump in here for a second. The consulting practice is certainly, you know, the focus. That's why CoreValue was designed. Chuck Richards, the guy that founded this many years ago, was a consultant and realized that he couldn't reach enough businesses, so he put it into a software package so he could leverage himself. But this also, the same exact kinds of things that you need to do if you're a consultant. For example, you need an operational assessment. You need to figure out where the operational holes are in the business, and you need a plan to fix those holes, and you need a plan to increase value. You know, if you are, if you are in and around businesses in any way where that's a helpful thing, it doesn't necessarily mean you need a consulting practice. For example, let's say you're an M&A firm and you're doing acquisitions, or you're helping other people do acquisitions, and you want to assess a company. This is the perfect tool to do that too. So when we talk about starting a consulting practice, just remember that the essence of what makes a good consulting practice is also the essence of that operational assessment and that strategic growth plan. So don't think this is just exclusively for people who want to do this as a consulting, as a fee-for-service business, because it does both. Although the focus certainly is, and many of the people using it are doing it as a consulting enhancement tool.
Yeah, absolutely right. Thanks, David. And when we're looking at getting into the market, whether we're a CPA, a management consultant, financial advisor, an M&A professional, a business broker, one of the ways we can expand our services is to invest our time and treasure in creating our own system, or we can decide to focus on our traditional services and not serve what I call the whole client, and that is leaving money on the table. It's also much more importantly, I feel failing to serve the client and to be in the best interest of what we could be delivering to the market. So the CoreValue consulting system answers one big question. How do you start or standardize a consulting practice using the best methodology in a way that generates terrific client results? It shows you how to market your practice, to get the support you need when you have questions, when you want coaching for your engagements, get you set up quickly, and do it at a price that's well within reach. It's a one-client payback. And that is what CoreValue has been designed to answer. It's something on which David and I and the whole team have been working for well over a year, and the results have been terrific. Let's take a second to put CoreValue in the universe. We're the market leader in value growth software. We have well over 10,000 companies that have been assessed using the system. That's over $200 billion in aggregate revenues. In December This stack always gives me goosebumps. We passed the $7 billion mark. Our executable growth plan has built or captured value worth over $7 billion. And if you think about the impact that's having on communities, it is absolutely terrific. We also, last year, we received our patent, 5 years of work. Our patent attorneys are Norton Rose Fulbright. Very excited to have the patent, and we're being deployed by, we're having a lot of success in the market. From our early days, born at MIT, through working with the National Institute of Standards and Technology, being deployed by American City Business Journals. There are 43 markets, 16 million readers. That number is a little stale. And our partnership that we announced a little over a year ago with the NACVA, the National Association of Certified Valuators and Analysts. And I'm very excited about that relationship because through the NACVA, we're able to go into a community and show this is not a valuation tool, but what it does do is make company value actionable. It shows an executable growth plan to build the value of a company, which is good stuff. There are 6 reasons you should consider CoreValue. It's the best methodology that generates the best results. It's very easy to use. It has a terrific support infrastructure behind it. We have a marketing kit that's put at the disposal of every customer and done in a way that is the price performance leader. I think it's a tremendous value. As I said, it's a one client payback. Take a moment to look at the CoreValue methodology. So this is a framework that was born at MIT about 30 years ago. It's based on 18 value drivers. There are 9 market drivers. Those are forces working on the company from outside, and 9 operational drivers. Those are forces working inside the company. And that methodology is deployed through you to your client in 2 ways. We start with Discover, which is a free initial assessment of company strength and value. It asks 1 question on each of the 18 value drivers. And think of that as your lead machine, as a way to have as the script for your initial client conversations. You then ask the client if they've learned something new by going through Discover, if they've identified things about which they'd like to know more. And the conversion rate from those questions is very high. It's 80%. You can build on Discover with Unlock. Unlock is a deep dive analysis that asks an additional 3 to 10 questions on each of the 18 value drivers and generates a series of reports. So 1 report at the Discover level, a series of detailed reports at the Unlock level. I'm going to point out that everything in the system is branded with your logo. So you're presenting yourself as the process expert. The Discover report, that free initial assessment, is emailed directly to your client. When you go through Unlock with a client, those reports are for you to use and distribute. So they are not emailed. Your client does not have access to those reports unless you give them access. Unlock takes about 2 hours, very, very efficient use of time, and generates a detailed deep dive analysis and automatically creates an executable growth plan that you can use as the basis for long-term engagements. And we're going to walk through, we'll show you each of those in a moment. One of the most important things we do is help you communicate to the client the ROI, the value, if you will, of hiring you. And you would show them how much of their company value is at risk. We put you in a position of saying, listen, we can deploy a methodology within your company. We can increase your operational strength in a way that on average has increased client gross revenues by 21.63%. It's a powerful message for clients. It's incredibly easy to use. It's written in plain English. It is there's no financial jargon, and it's written in a way that CEOs really identify with. David and I have both done this with clients, and it is they really enjoy the process. They love it. It's motivating and exciting. We see them logging in again and again to look at their reports, and that's the feedback from the field. Dave, anything you wanted to add there?
Yeah, let me just say there's a lot. CoreValue obviously comes up with a value for the company. And if you're an evaluator, that value is not a formal standards-based value. It's actually a calculation report. And we're working with NACVA to come up with some language that defines exactly how this value fits into standards and fits into an engagement if you're an evaluator. But the other thing I want to bring up too is, value is really just a lens to look at operational strength. And obviously, a company's operational strength is reflected in value. But most business owners, value is really a secondary thing. Business owners usually don't wake up in the morning and have a desperate need to know what their company is worth, but they do have a desperate need to fix the problems in their business that are related to the things that are giving them stress. And those things are caused by weaknesses in those 18 operational drivers. So, the question that Ed Wonke asked his clients, and he's been very, very successful using this tool, is, what are the 3 things in your business that keep you up at night? And if you ask any entrepreneur that question, unless they've really, a very tiny percentage of CEOs or business owners will answer that question with, there's nothing that keeps me up at night. My business is running incredibly well. It's not stressful. Everything's working as it should. My management team is strong, and I can leave actually, and there's absolutely no problems ever. That answer is very rare. And the reason that answer is rare is because there's operational holes in a business. In other words, you can really equate business owner and CEO stress with lack of operational excellence or strength. And those are the things that really drive a business owner to want to do this. The value enhancement is awesome, but the things that they really want are help with what I call fires in the lobby. In other words, what are the things that are stressing them out, that are not working, that are a struggle, whether it's revenue or margins or operations, or pick any one of those 18 drivers. Usually there's 2 or 3 that are a struggle. And the whole point of this software is really to go in and take a 360-degree look at the company, which most business owners don't do. Most business owners tend to be very tactical, and they tend to be very focused on solving specific problems in the business. And they usually have not had the experience or been trained to look at their business from a broad strategic perspective. And that's exactly what this does. So don't underestimate the power of operational strength, because I think value certainly is a very important piece, but I think closer to a CEO or an entrepreneur's heart are those operational drivers that are causing him stress.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. If you think about when you're meeting a potential client for the first time, think about your last experience doing that. And we'll often get we'll get a referral from a friend or colleague. We'll get a business card. We might get some summary information about the client, maybe do a little research on the internet, but we don't know a lot about the business itself. Now think about changing that. Think about if you sat down and you had a lead about which you knew a tremendous amount, about a lead about which you could see into their business engine and have a nice high level understanding of what's right and what's wrong inside that company. That's what Discover allows you to do. You're going to get beyond the business card information, beyond the name, title, phone number, email address. You're going to get the number of employees, their gross revenues, net revenues. You're going to understand why that business owner is willing to meet with you. Are they trying to grow the company? Are they trying to make the company easier to operate? Are they contemplating selling the company? You'll have all of that information, and you will have done it in a very simple fashion. Discover works by using an intake process that takes a couple of minutes, and then asks 18 different questions where the client is going to be rating themselves against best practices for each of the 18 value drivers. Again, it's in plain English, very intuitive to use, intuitive to follow along. So we've described the product. Let me prove to you why it's the best methodology that generates the best results and is the easiest to use. We're going to jump into the software, and here I am. I have a dashboard. All of our customers have a dashboard to which they can manage their clients. It's very easy to invite a company to use Discover. So I'm sitting down with you. I did this with an executive. She is the head. She's the CEO of a holding company that has 6 automobile dealerships. Very successful. In fact, she's now teaching business classes at Ohio University. And she wanted to. We had discussed this software in passing at a social event, and she wanted to know how it would apply to her company. So we sat down literally at a breakfast joint here in town. I used my pad. I spend my life working on a Samsung notebook pad, And we fired it up and walked her company through it. And so I got her name. I'll use my own here to protect the innocent. I got her, confirmed her email address, and then we can either send this out as an email to our client. Best practice is to do discover immediately on this computer. You can run it on a PC, a laptop. As I said, I use it on a pad. Ed Wonke, who's one of our most prolific users, uses it on an iPad, and he's developed a system for using this as a script for a conversation over lunch. We're going to start the intake process. Again, we can get the phone number. That's not a required field. And we're going to jump right in with, we'll call this Acme. David, what kind of, you want to do a manufacturing company today?
Sure.
So select the industry. Excuse me.
George?
Yes.
We have a question.
Please.
Revenue or cash flow?
Gross revenue, in the GAAP sense of the word. And there's an entire conversation about how to adjust how to adjust net revenues, but revenue, full stop. And then EBITDA, which some clients actually, some clients don't know what that means, but net revenue.
And let me just jump in here for a second, George. One of the things that people find interesting, especially valuators, in a formal valuation, you're asking for a lot of financial detail, financial statements, all sorts of other details that go into evaluation. This only asks a very small handful of questions about numbers, revenue and EBITDA and a couple other things. But the rest of it is much more qualitative. So, really what's happening here is, you're getting a high level picture of what the overall revenue and EBITDA is, and then the operational assessment sort of kicks in, and that is how CoreValue comes up with the value. In other words, you have an EBITDA and you also have an operational strength. And it's really kind of like a hybrid market approach if you're a evaluator. In other words, if you got a company and you're trying to assess what their operational strength is, or in the valuation world, what their risk is. And, you're using that to come up with a value. CoreValue does a very similar thing, but a vast majority of CoreValue is not a bunch of quantitative financial data. It's very light on quantitative financial data, and it's very rich in the qualitative assessment that helps you figure out how a company is functioning.
Absolutely. And what is powerful is that it takes these qualitative answers and quantifies the impact they're going to have on the company. Why is the CEO at the table? Do they want to create sustainable growth? Are they getting ready to sell their company? Are they thinking to strengthen their operations so that maybe they can take some time off without reaching for the mail-ox bottle? Are they going to need access to capital in the next 24 months? An important question. And one of the most critical questions: do they have a personal financial plan that dovetails their business and personal objectives? And over 80% of the time, the answer to that question is no, which means they're not looking at their company as an asset. They're not thinking of the company in terms of something that has to fund their long-term wealth goals. And the fundamental role of a CEO is to maximize shareholder value in line with the company's mission. We need to be looking at this business as an asset. It needs to be strong. If it's strong, it will have value. We then jump right into the 18 questions. We start with growth, we end with innovation, and we state a best practice as a question and ask the business owner to rate themselves. And again, as you can see, it's in colloquial, very approachable terms. So I'll walk through the first few questions. Does your business have a history of consistent growth greater than its competitors, coupled with projected future revenue growth above the market's rate? So most CEOs are going to stop reading right about here after the word growth, right? Do they have consistent growth? Heck yes, we're growing period over period, quarter over quarter, year over year. Greater than your competitors? A lot of times they don't know from a data perspective. They don't have data on how their competitors are doing, and they may not really understand who their competitors are. Do they have projected future revenue growth above the market's rate? If they're growing at 6%, their competitors are growing at 8%, or the market's growing at 12%, good job, and now it's time to get to work. Again, if you think of looking at the business as an asset, does the market support significant growth of the business? What would the private equity team be asking about this company if they were going to be looking to invest in it, to purchase it? Do you have the highest percentage of the available market? We're near the top. Recurring revenue. I love recurring revenue. It solves so many problems for the business. It allows the business owner to look up, start thinking strategically about the business, allows them to sleep better at night because they're not worried about, as worried about cash flow. Maybe to make to have the confidence to make some investment in people or machines. So, helping your client create recurring revenue can have a really cool impact, really powerful impact. So we ask 18 questions across the entirety of the company's operation, and along about here, at this point in the process, your client will have figured out that you're not going to ask them for 3 years of audited financials. You're not going to sit down and talk about inventory turn or cash flow or any of the other financial metrics that they're used to talking about. And those financial metrics are outputs of this business engine. What we're doing right now is we are busy analyzing the engine itself. And CoreValue, which is patented, has an ability to measure the company's ability to generate revenues and profits going into the future. It also has the ability to help the CEO understand the impact that their dysfunction is having on the value of their company, okay, and show them that their weak operations are actually risk factors that are going to impact their ability to raise capital, sell the company, borrow, etc. And frankly, more importantly, to go back to David's point about fires in the lobby, these are the factors that keep us as CEOs from sleeping at night. Dave runs a software company. I run a software company. We both stare at the ceiling a fair amount in the middle of the night. None of it is about the value of the company, right?
Definitely. Definitely.
So when we've rated those 18 value drivers, we generate an immediate report. Remember that your logo is on the top. All of this is branded with your logo. We do not, everything we do with the marketing kit, with the interfaces, the assessments, the reports, those are all branded with your logo. You do not need to explain to your client that you're using CoreValue. That's immaterial. It's like explaining that you wrote your report in Microsoft Word. What they need to understand are the outputs and why it matters to them. So let's walk through this report for a moment. The most important thing we've calculated is the CoreValue Business Rating. The CoreValue Business Rating is a rating of this company's operational strength, with measured on a scale of 0 to 10. These gray bars is the percentage of businesses in our system, and you see a nice normalized curve, bell curve. This is how those companies are rated on a scale of 0 to 10. But most of the companies, as you'd expect, falling in the middle here, 5s and 6s. Average company comes in at a 5.7. The most valuable companies are the strongest companies, the lowest risk companies. Those are your 8s and 9s. That's about 10% of the companies in the CoreValue system. If you step back and
let me just jump in for a second here, George. One of the things that's always been fascinating to me is looking at comparable data. Whether you're looking at smaller companies like from BizComps or IBA market data, or you're looking at even bigger companies from like Done Deals, where public companies are buying private companies. The range of price to earnings or price to cash flow or price to EBITDA, and the range of those ratios has always been surprising to me. In smaller companies, that range is about 300%. If you look at restaurants across the United States, you'll see PE ratios, from like 1 to 6. And the question becomes, what is driving the difference in value in all of those companies? In other words, the data shows you the valuation roadmap. Probably 95% of the market is captured in that data, and you can see there's a vast range. Interesting question. What causes that huge range? What CoreValue does is gives you a lens into the specific things that cause that range in value. Why are some companies worth 3 times as much as the others when they've got the exact same revenue and the exact same cash flow? And this is sort of a diagnostic tool to help you sort of look under the hood of the business and see what specific things are working or not working, where the operational holes are. And if you are an evaluator, another interesting lens here, if you're looking at, through the lens of company-specific risk, this operational assessment really is a great doorway into, how strong is the company? How much risk is there? A company that's operationally very strong has less risk than a company that's not so operationally strong. So there's not, a quantifiable connection between the core value score and, let's say, company-specific risk, but there certainly is a correlation that really helps give you some insight into it. In other words, instead of just looking at financial statements and looking at, the financial history and projected future, you're looking at the operational history of the company, which is a different lens.
Absolutely. And to that point, precisely what we're doing is, if let's say an industry has a normalized trading range of 3x to 6x, every business owner thinks they're going to get 6x, 6 times earnings. Most businesses don't. This company that we've just measured, Acme Manufacturing, this company has a core value business rating of about 6.2. This is a range right here. Ignore the height. Of about 6.2. That means that they're not going to get a 3x. They're not going to be at the bottom of the barrel. They're not going to get a 6x because they're not at the top of the range. They're going to be somewhere in the middle. That somewhere in the middle takes the $19.2 million that this company could be worth if it was up here in this top 10%, and discounts it. And discounts it based on the risks inherent in the company's operations, meaning we have to subtract between 3.4 and $6.3 million from the 19.2. So this company is worth somewhere between 13 and 16 million as it stands. What are the top 3 factors from what the CEO just told us that are putting this drag on value? Where are they not operating as well as they could? And we have their answers right here. It's handy sometimes when you're reviewing this report to go back and look at them. Let's look at sales and marketing. Sales and marketing is your ability to generate future revenues, right? And if you have a good sales and marketing process, if your top salesperson leaves, it's going to be a hiccup, but it's not going to be a catastrophe. If you don't have a sales and marketing process and your top salesperson leaves, it's going to be more of a catastrophe because you have to have someone to come in and come back up to speed, learn what to say, when to say it, and to whom to say it. So they have a sales and marketing process, but our success is more about our people. Our success is more about our people. That's a problem. The impact that's having on this company, now that's heavily weighted. The algorithms don't divide the value gap out evenly by 18. They apply weight to it, a weight based on the value driver and also taking into account the industry. So sales and marketing is the top contributor to the value gap. And we're going to benchmark their rating in sales and marketing to the manufacturing industry. So we're up here, we were comparing them to the market, benchmarking against the market. Here we're benchmarking them against other manufacturers. And we can see that the majority of other manufacturers have a large gap, meaning they're underperforming, and a few have a small gap, meaning they're rock stars. This company is outperforming the industry a little bit, marginally, but it's so heavily weighted it's the top contributor to the value gap. The legal driver, I actually dinged that on purpose to illustrate the point. Every company with whom we work has 2 things. They have a CPA or at minimum a bookkeeper, but typically a CPA, and they have an attorney. Typically the legal gap, the legal value gap is very small because there's an entire industry built around compliance. These people are underperforming the industry. Okay, financial driver, same thing. It's heavily weighted. So although they're outperforming the industry, they still need to do some work. It's the top 3rd value driver.
George?
Yes.
We have another question.
Please.
We've actually got 2 questions. The one is, where does your comparison data come from?
The comparison data comes from 5,000 closed transactions. And that's data that we purchase out of the market.
Okay.
Let me add to that. There's 2 different comparisons going on. One comparison is the value comparison. In other words, if you think of the core value score as a metric of how operationally strong that is, and that correlates with where where in the valuation roadmap the company is. In other words, go back to restaurants, PE ratios from, let's say, 1.5 to 5.5 or 6. How do you know where you are? Well, your operational strength will tell you where you are. But in these graphs, those drivers, how many companies have been through this, George? I think it's over 10,000.
Over 10,000.
Yeah, so there's over 10,000 companies that have been through this. In other words, you're looking at what other companies have submitted as operational assessments. You know, an analogy would be if you're using financial statement benchmarking using RMA, for example, you know, you're taking financial statement data that was compiled from a large group of companies that break down by industry. This is a very similar thing, but instead of financial statement ratios, you're looking at operational assessment scores and how they compare by industry and different kind of things. And once again, this is a great tool, because not only is this giving you sort of an operational assessment, but it's also helping you compare that with other companies in the industry. In other words, not only does this company have an operational assessment of whatever it is, 5 or 6 or 7, but what does that look like for other companies, in this industry that have been through this, and how does it compare? Where is it sitting? So it's, both an absolute number as well as an external benchmark against other companies.
Yeah. And there was another question, Melissa?
Yes, we have another question about the data. Who do they purchase the data comparison data from? We need to know this information. If you cannot support the answer, how can we rely on the data?
You want me to answer that one, George? I'll start.
Go ahead.
I think we run into this question a lot. Many people have felt that, they need to know that answer. And, but what people find is when you sort of switch gears and start thinking of this as an operational assessment and not as a formal valuation tool. In other words, this tool is not to prove out what that value is. In a formal valuation, your entire task is not only to do the value, but have a reproducible number and be able to document every step along the way and to be able to show your assumptions make sense. This software is not that. It is not a formal valuation. And the data that they use, they don't, there's not a, they don't, it's a proprietary method. In other words, the valuation method fundamentally is a hybrid market approach where they're taking a core value score and applying it to PE ratios. But if you're going into this tool thinking that you need to justify this value, you're looking at it through the wrong lens. This is a consulting tool. If you're using this tool as a valuation tool, it's the wrong tool. You don't want to use this as just a straight valuation tool. The exactness of the number is not the point. The point is to put them into a ballpark number of a value, a range. Once again, there's data behind the scenes and which shows the valuation roadmap, and we're trying to pinpoint where this company is. But even more importantly than that is looking at what the gap is. In other words, what's that range of PE ratios? And if this company is operationally weak or they're holes, what is the possibility of improving that? And once again, those numbers are not something that you're going to sit, you're not taking this to court. You're not proving that out with clients. And, you can talk to Ed Wonke, who is a CVA and evaluator and uses this all the time. And those issues really are not the point. The point is, what's the operational strength? What's the potential? And this value is an estimate. And once again, hopefully sometime in the next 30 days, we'll actually have the document from NACVA that explains exactly how this fits and how you use it. But I understand for evaluators, and we get this question all the time, I need to connect the dots. I need to see what the data is. I need to see the formulas you're using. I need to be able to see all that stuff. And CoreValue doesn't publish all that stuff. And NACVA, we have looked at this. NACVA has looked at that. And there is an appropriate use for this in the valuation world, but it is not a formal valuation. So I'd encourage you just to, wait until we get the formal document and explains exactly what kind of a calculation report this is and how it fits into NACVA standards.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, and the next question is, how does your product differ from corporate value metrics?
Corporate value metrics is a good product, and they are incredibly different. Corporate value metrics is I would invite you to get a demonstration from them, from Ken and Mike. So CoreValue is light, nimble, dynamic. It's serious. We've been used on incredibly large companies. We're used by the Department of Defense. Our list of clients is on our website. But it's meant to be a 2-hour, a very, very time-efficient analysis that goes in, identifies the key challenges with the company across all 18 of the value drivers, a total of 276 different points, and allows you to get to work very quickly. So it's a much more time-efficient tool, and I guess the key differentiator, other than the interfaces and the efficiency with deploying this with your client, is that my understanding is, and please verify this with Ken and with Mike, they do a calculation that is all math driven, where we do market comparisons looking back at 5,000 closed transactions. So market comps versus a computation. I hope that answered the question. I'm going to take a moment to jump into, let's jump forward. So you've completed Discover, and the next, you would then say to your client, did you learn something new today? Actually, Ed Wonke does a terrific module on that in the Build a Thriving Practice training that is part of the CoreValue Unlimited license. And he says, did you learn anything new today? And if what you learned today about your company is valuable, I'd like to propose that we take 2 hours, that we do a deep dive analysis of your company. And based on that analysis, I'm going to prepare an operational strength and value report that will detail the strengths and weaknesses within your company and show you exactly how they're impacting value. And I will put together some high-level recommendations on tasks you could accomplish to start neutralizing those weaknesses, to improve the operational strength of your business. And I charge $4,500 for that service. Can we book a time next week? And Ed's conversion rate is very high. That CEOs love Discover, and you'll have tremendous results converting them over. When you get into Unlock, we're going to ask an additional 3 to 10 questions on each of the 18 value drivers. So you remember this question from Unlock: you have a history of consistent growth greater than your competitors, projected future revenue growth above the market's rate. There are 3 sub-drivers of growth. And those 3 sub-drivers are company growth, industry growth, and customer advantage. And what we're going to do is, where we were really qualitative and starting to quantify the qualitative view of the company in Discover, in Unlock, we're going to start narrowing that down and making it more binary. So here's the same question again. At the company growth level, you can demonstrate quantifiable and historic growth greater than your competitors. Yes, and we have supporting documentation. We're pretty sure we may be missing some docs. We think so. We don't have all the docs. We're not sure. We'd have to do some work. And we couldn't show a growth advantage past or future. Meaning, if I had to prove that I was growing faster than my competitors, if I had to prove that I was growing faster than the market, I wouldn't be able to do it because I haven't done that analysis. And that is, by the way, by and large, that's the typical answer, that bottom one. I'm going to highlight financial. I know that that's near and dear to many of your hearts. A lot of CEOs, you probably experienced this. You sit down with a CEO, they're doing their numbers, they're closing their books every month, they're doing a quarterly review internally, they're filing their annual numbers, they're filing, they're paying their taxes on time. They're in compliance with the law. That is very different than having comprehensive financial systems in place. Are they having their numbers reviewed? Are they having them independently audited? Are they generating financial statements? Are they managing using operating reports? Do they know the value of their tangible assets? Do they know the value, and have they protected their intellectual property? Do they have good banking relationships? Those are critical. At the end of the day, people do business with people, right? If you walk into a bank the day you need a loan, you're probably not in as good a spot as you could be, et cetera. So financial digs down, and there's a tremendous amount of consulting work, of additional services that you can show your client that they would benefit from. Let me jump into, I'm going to jump back into the tool here to show you how that works. So you've been through Unlock with a client, and David, feel free to jump in. You've been through Unlock with a client. what does that look like? The first thing we're going to see for the client, now you're going to have control over all of the graphics I'm about to show you, you have control over. Now you can choose to let the client in, or you can pull these out in our report writer and generate a report that you can deliver to the client. And whether that report is a one-page update or a one-page overview or a 40 or 50-page detailed analysis, that's up to you. It's based on the case. Okay, it's a very dynamic tool. And so what do we know about the company? We know that they have, we're going to see their enterprise value. If we've been working with the company for a while, we're going to see the impact that our work with them has had on their enterprise value. Here, we've increased the enterprise value of this company by $3 million. You want to substantiate your fees, that is a great way to do it. As soon as you finish the deep dive analysis, we generate an overview report. It gives you, it shows you the enterprise value. It identifies the value gap. It starts narrowing this down, so there's no longer a range. We're pinning a number to the wall and saying, there's about $4 million at risk here of the value of your company. We're going to measure their core value rating. These charts get used a lot. You can instantly and intuitively see where the company is strong, where the company is weak. In fact, if you're like me, you're starting to construct a story in your head when you look at these. Okay, the company's growing, they're in a large market, but they don't have a differentiated product. You start seeing the company analytically, seeing their operations analytically. It's incredibly powerful. When we're thinking in terms of making a proposal to a client, we can sit down and we can say, listen, here are the 18 contributors to your value gap. You have a $4 million value gap, and we know that on average, the top 5 value drivers make up approximately half of the value gap. So it's a great way to say to your client, listen, let's work on one of these value drivers per quarter. In a little over a year, we will have moved, we have the ability to move $2 million from at risk to into the win column. There's a complete workbook. Once you finish the deep dive analysis, the system generates a workbook of tasks that you can go through with your client to increase their value. And further, it allows you to take those tasks and sort them. If they're in, perhaps this company is the CEO wants to sell as soon as possible, then what we're going to want to do is sort these by the value gap and start shoring up, start fixing, start building processes and procedures that remove the risk to these top contributors to the value gap. Or maybe we want to get some early wins. We can sort them by bang for the buck. The higher the firecrackers, the easy, the less disruptive, the less time consuming, the less costly, some mixture thereof. These will be on the company. Let's analyze margin trends. Let's look at suppliers and contracts. You can get yourself some early wins and start moving the needle on the value gap as well. So you can start prioritizing these tasks with the client. All of this can be pulled into the report writer. And the report writer, as I said, is incredibly dynamic. You can build templates that allows you to scale. So if you have a process and a report you like to work with on an ongoing basis, the first time you build it, you're going to have to put some hours in. The next time it's easier. The next time after that, it's never going to be just push the button. You're going to obviously need to proofread and customize, but you start being able to scale your time and to make your time pay for itself more than once, which is, as I'm an attorney by trade, we know that being able to leverage those hours, is incredibly powerful. So we've shown our clients some benchmarking at the beginning of the conversation. We've shown them the potential value of their business. That's a number they will have done on the back of an envelope long before meeting you. The business owners either have no idea whatsoever what their company's worth, or they are absolutely positive. All right, 6 times multiple. I know my numbers. My company's worth $24 million. Well, little reality for those of you who are evaluators on the line. That is probably not. That's probably not the truth. We've shown them the ROI for retaining you. That's the value gap. We've benchmarked their performance against their industry. We've shown them threats to their business. These red flags. Red flags can be areas that are not putting any, that are not at risk from an operational perspective, but, so you may have legal buttoned up. However, you're being sued. That lawsuit is going to prevent you from getting a price for the company, different from value, but nobody's going to write a check. We've identified the top 3 weak areas, and we've taken the client. We started the client on a journey of understanding and moving, changing, impacting the value of their company. Let me show you why we have the best support. We have a dedicated customer success team. This customer success team has worked with hundreds of advisors on thousands of cases. They're here for you. We are on chat, email, phone call. If you need help, whether it's coaching or whether you're sitting in your client's room and you can't remember how to log in, we're here to help you. The support starts with an orientation. All of our clients get orientation. It's approximately an hour that shows you how to use the system, where to log in, how to access the different tools. On top of that, the CoreValue Unlimited customers get a one-on-one onboarding where we help you integrate CoreValue into your practice. We help you brand the collateral, implement the search engine optimization, load the landing pages. On top of that, in conjunction with the NACVA, there is a build a business consulting practice, build a thriving practice training. It's 2 hours a day over 5 days, 10 hours of CPE, and it is terrific. It's very, very well rated, and that really helps you. It starts with the methodology, really understanding the methodology, some case studies, sales and marketing training from one of the best sales and marketing gurus in the world, and gets you all the tools you need to not only implement CoreValue into your practice, but to take it out to market. You have access. All of our customers have access to a complete marketing kit. And that has brochures. It has a sales manual. It has slicks, white papers. It's a tremendous amount of information, all of which allows you to say, hi, I'm George Sandman, and I'd like to discuss your company with you. Maybe I've been helping you with your taxes for the last 6 years, and I think there are other areas where we might be able to help you. If you have 10 minutes for a conversation, hint, that's when you use Discover. I use a methodology that was born at MIT. Did you know that it helps the average company increase their value by 27%? In fact, companies that implement these best practices increase their gross revenues by over 21% a year. Is that something that you have time to discuss? And that you're going to get a heck yes. All of this is branded in your name, and we have a sales manual that was written in conjunction with Ted Finch. Ted Finch, when Microsoft is launching a new product, when Dell is launching a new product, they call Ted. Ted comes in, helps position the product, helps create the sales process, trains the salespeople. It is absolute gold. There are some nuggets in there that I know you'll find valuable.
Let me jump in here for a second. Can you go back to that
Sure.
for 1 second, George?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I met George, it's probably a couple of years ago now, one of the things that was really clear to me was, number one, the CoreValue software really had a place and met a need. Small businesses desperately need this kind of thing. Most small businesses, the owners are not strategic. They're not MBAs. They have not mastered the art of, all of this kind of strategic thinking. They've mastered the art of a couple of, most of the time, some specific piece of technology or expertise that makes the business grow, but they have not figured this all out. And but the gap there is the piece of software fills this huge need. Small companies need this desperately, but unless you can sell this kind of a service to a small company or one of your clients, it doesn't mean much. It doesn't matter how valuable CoreValue is, or how much it can do for you if you can't get the client involved in a conversation. So George talked briefly about these things, but Ted has developed a marketing process. He's an engineer by training, and what he's done is created a step-by-step process to market services, financial services, and we've adapted that to the CoreValue product and the need to go out and offer this service to businesses that need it. But this stuff is gold. Not only has Ted been doing this for 30 years and consulted with hundreds of companies and brought in billions of dollars in revenue across every product line and every geographic part of the planet, but he's put it into a system that is relatively straightforward and relatively easy to use. So he took that base of all of his experience over the last 3 decades, and we spent literally a year going through all of this stuff and customizing it for this market, for this product, for the kinds of issues and objections and the kind of steps that you need to take. So I know, you know, a lot of people in financial services, you know, marketing and sales is not why they got into this business, but this helps you follow some pretty simple steps. George talked about Ed Wonke's conversion rates. In other words, the process, the sales funnel for this is relatively simple. You talk to someone and you get them to agree to do discover, which takes about 10 minutes. You have a conversation about that discover report, and you have a conversation about doing unlock where there's a fee. After unlock, there's a conversation about consulting. Now, Ed's conversion rates between conversation and discover and unlock and consulting are incredible. They're over 80%. So, but he's a natural at this, and he's a natural salesperson. But the point is, that's best practice. In other words, if you thought about, you know, building a consulting practice, it boils down to the numbers. How many people do you talk to? How many people do discover? How many people do unlock? And then how many people engage you for a consulting agreement? And these tools will help you understand what that process looks like and give you some, you know, sort of best practice benchmarks, because the best practice benchmarks are, you'll be busier than you can possibly be doing this kind of consulting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's an iterative process, which is how we all go through our lives, right? So remember I said that we're the price performance leader, and then it has a one client payback. It's very easy to buy CoreValue. We have the lowest cost per advisor. I would invite you, in fact, I'd encourage you to compare the value you're getting with CoreValue to any other system you're contemplating in the market. And you think about what your client ROI has to be, your ROI from the client has to be, in order to substantiate your expenditure on the system. We've had free training and support. It's very easy to get up and running, terrific orientation. And the way the pricing works is very straightforward. We have two pricing bundles. There's a CoreValue Pro bundle that's $995, and that's an a la carte self-service model where you get, for $995, you get unlimited use of the Discover initial assessment of company strength and value. And then when you move a client into Unlock, the deep dive analysis and executable growth plan, it's $495 per client per year. Now, with that, you get an orientation and you get access to the marketing kit. With CoreValue Unlimited, that's an all-inclusive full-service model, and that's $2,950, where you get unlimited use of Discover. You also get unlimited use of the deep dive analysis and of the executable growth plan. You get access to the $720 NACFA Build a Thriving Practice training. That's 10 hours of CPE. That's a tremendous value right there. And you get the one-on-one onboarding, where a customer success team helps you integrate CoreValue into your practice. Now, if you think of CoreValue Pro at $995, two clients at $495, we're at about $2,000. At $700 of Build a Thriving Practice training, $2,700. With Unlimited, from your third client on, you're not only saving money, but you're capping your costs for the year. So terrific value. Far and away the most popular bundle. We compare very, very favorably to, we have a lot of features and functions that our competitors do not have. And we have, we have support that is bar none. What are the questions we hear most often about CoreValue? First is, how did you determine the value? And you'll remember that we determine the value by comparing the company to 5,000 closed transactions, by analyzing their operational strength, and calculating the impact that has on the value of the company. We're going to help you be a process expert. We are not going to make you a subject matter expert across the 18 value drivers. We're going to make you a process expert and give you a framework through which it's very easy to bring outside subject matter experts in if needed. We're going to save you from investing your time in creating a new system from scratch. We've done all of that heavy lifting for you, and we put it at your disposal. Think of it as a consulting practice in a box. And that includes marketing to bring clients to your website, to bring clients to your meetings, to end up sitting across the table from a client, and some sales tips, techniques, scripts, that help you to convert prospects into paying clients. And I can tell you that the reports we get back from the market are terrific. We have a lot of great testimonials on the website. It is well loved. Our Net Promoter Score is high. We have people like you referring clients, referring their colleagues to us, and our renewal rate is over 80%. So I'm really, the testimonials, your colleagues think very, very highly of what we're doing, because what we're doing ultimately is helping them increase the value of their client's company to create wealth in their client. And for every dollar that we charge our clients, and we can make a very good living with this type of service, we are actually creating $10 of wealth, of value for our clients. So a terrific package all the way around. If any of you have questions about what we've seen today, we'd be glad you can send an email to Dave Fine and his team. There's a white paper that's available to download on the ValueSource website, and you can call and schedule a review meeting as well.
You can call ValueSource as well. You can call ValueSource directly.
Absolutely. Dave, you want to give that number?
Sure. It's 800-825-8763. You can email sales@valuesource.com if you have some more questions. But I encourage you, if you're doing consulting now and want to ramp it up, if you're not doing consulting and you want to start it, this is a great way to do it. So whether you're not in it and want to do it, or you're doing it and you want to standardize it and automate it and help enhance it, we'd love to help you.
Absolutely. Are there any questions about what we've covered?
Yes, we've got one question.
Please.
What tools are provided for the client? A list of prioritized tasks to implement, a project management tool? What are the deliverables?
It's a great question. So the deliverables are I'm not trying to duck the question, but they are what you decide they're going to be. You can pull all of the tasks from the executable growth plan and deliver them to your client. You can also deliver access to the system to your client, and then you can manage them, set priorities, set goals, set tasks, and manage them as they execute those. Hold their feet to the fire as they undergo each of these projects in turn. What we recommend is that you create what's called a sprint, and a sprint is setting a goal and then focusing all of your energy on achieving that goal over, let's say, a 2-week period, and to manage your client as you do that. A lot of the expertise, these are successful companies we're talking about, right? So they have the process in place, but they may not have written it down. And once they've written it down, they may have some questions. They may say, well, we've never been satisfied with how we did blank. We have this problem with operations. Who can we bring in? You have a manufacturing company. Maybe you're gonna say, okay, well, we're gonna want to accelerate delivery dates. Let's bring in a lean manufacturing expert to help us with that. There are hundreds of deliverables that you can package up and serve to your client in a number of different ways that are covered in training. I hope that answered the question. So I know we're right at 2 o'clock. I'd like to say thank you very much, David, for having me on. I really appreciate it. This is a tremendous partnership, and I'm excited for all of our work going forward into the future.
Well, thanks, George, and thank all of you for attending. If there's anything we can do for you, please let us know. But once again, I encourage you to check it out, because if you're doing consulting, this will help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, Melissa, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Everyone, have a nice afternoon, everyone. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Bye.
God, it's hot in here. Sweet Lord. Ugh.